Okay, so France's President Emmanuel Macron just basically said that Ukraine should be able to attack Russia from Ukraine, fire missiles into Russia. Now take a look here. France's Macron urges a green light for Ukraine to strike targets inside of Russia with Western weapons. Now, will this start World War III or ignite it even more? Or will this prevent Russia from annihilating Ukraine? France is a founding member of NATO. Okay, they've been in NATO since it started. Here's what France's Macron said. Take a listen here.
Wir einigen uns immer. Das ist vielleicht der wichtigste Satz, der richtig ist über die Vergangenheit und der deshalb auch eine gute Prognose über die Zukunft ist.
Alors comment on explique aux Ukrainiens qu'il va falloir protéger ces villes et au fond tout ce qu'on voit en ce moment autour de Kharkiv si on leur dit vous n'avez pas le droit d'atteindre le point d'où sont tirés les missiles? En fait, on leur dit on vous livre des armes mais vous ne pouvez pas vous défendre. Donc nous on reste exactement dans le même cadre. On pense qu'on doit leur permettre de neutraliser les sites militaires d'où sont tirés les missiles, et au fond les sites militaires depuis lesquels l'Ukraine est agressée, mais on ne doit pas permettre de toucher d'autres cibles en Russie, et évidemment des capacités civiles ou d'autres cibles militaires. Quand c'est depuis des cibles identifiées en Russie que l'Ukraine est agressée, eh bien je pense qu'on doit pouvoir leur permettre de le faire si on veut véritablement retenir notre objectif. Et je crois pouvoir dire que factuellement, nous ne sommes pas escalatoires en faisant cela, puisque c'est la Russie qui s'organise de cette façon.
So France's president has joined the head of NATO in pushing for a policy shift that could change the complexion of the war in Ukraine, allowing Kyiv to strike military bases only inside Russia with the sophisticated long-range weapons that they have been provided by Western partners. The question of whether to allow Ukraine to hit targets on Russian soil with Western supplied weaponry has been a delicate issue since Moscow started the war. Of course, Vladimir Putin said that this would push them to nuclear conflict or near nuclear conflict. But the war has recently been going Russia's way as aid for Ukraine has been significantly delayed until recently, and Russia's just having fun, right? Russian missiles and bombs have pummeled Ukrainian military positions and civilian areas, including the power grid, and Ukraine is facing its hardest test of the war. Now, Macron has said that we think we must allow Ukraine to neutralize the Russian military sites from which the missiles are fired. If we tell Ukraine you do not have the right to reach the point from which the missiles are fired, we are in fact telling them that we are delivering weapons to you, but you cannot defend yourself. This comes after the head of NATO said the right to self-defense, including hitting legitimate targets outside of Ukraine, the military targets from which they fired these missiles. And of course, if you think about this, this is obviously common sense if you didn't have a crazy, crazed man over there by the name of Putin, which of course he's going to take this and go absolutely crazy ape shit over there because he's got 6,000 nuclear weapons. If you took away the 6,000 nuclear weapons from Hitler 2.0 over there, well, this would be a completely different story. If he didn't have those, this war would probably be over or may not have even started if he didn't have those 6,000 nuclear weapons. That's the whole reason why the whole rest of the world is tiptoeing around this entire situation, okay? With even letting Putin invade this country the way it is. Don't forget that China is watching on the sidelines to see if Putin gets away with invading these countries, Crimea, Ukraine, and remember what is happening over with Hamas and Palestine and everything over there. These other countries like North Korea and China and Russia, they're just watching to see what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. Because whatever they get away with is just, fodder for the future to say, well, we got away with it in the past, we can do it again. So you got to take that with a grain of salt, because just think about what is happening right now. Putin has gone and set up all these military bases, all of these missile launch sites, basically right off of the border of Ukraine in Russia, 100 miles or so, whatever, off the border. And they're just launching missiles on a daily, weekly basis. And basically, NATO has told Ukraine, well, you can't do anything to Russia, because Russia says, if you go and start attacking us, we could launch nukes. We might launch nukes. That's the red line for us. You can't attack us. Meanwhile, we're attacking you on a daily basis. We're trying to invade your country. We're trying to take you over. And too bad. So sad. And when we take over your country, the portions that we've taken over, we're going to take your people, your men, and if we capture your men, we're going to put them into our army. So we're going to put them on the front lines of our army, the conscription, the draft, and they're then going to become fodder for our army. That is what is already happening here. Because remember, Russia has a mandatory draft that they put people into their army. So if they become part of Russia, which, Russia says, we have these legitimate drafts, or I'm sorry, these legitimate elections, these legitimate votes where, these armed guards go and take these votes, and 90% of these Ukrainian elections vote for Putin. We all know that's really not the case, but nonetheless. And then Russia goes back and counts the votes. That's not filmed, that's not independently verified. Russia just goes back and under closed door counts them and just tells the world, oh, hey, Putin won 90%. It's not like here in the US, it's almost 50-50. It's very, very close. You ever look at the election, it's 50-50, and it's all independently verified. Each state counts their own votes, right? And, there's, it's basically open. It's all this stuff, right? And I get that everybody even has questions about our election, right? But it's surely not, behind closed doors and all this stuff. Each state counts their own vote here in the US, right? Over there, Russia just takes the votes and counts them themselves behind closed doors, all this stuff, right? It's not independently verified, right? Alas, Russia then takes the people from Ukraine and just throws them into their own army. So this is why it's like, well, peace is not really an answer for Ukraine, because then they're just going to take the men there and throw them into the Russian army. And meanwhile, Russia's just exploiting all this because they're just setting up, military targets, military sites, military missile launching places right outside of the border, because they know that NATO has told them, hey, don't attack Russia, because Russia has threatened us with all these different threats that says, you can't attack Russia. And they're just launching missiles on a daily, weekly basis, however, whenever they decide they want to launch them. And, meanwhile, Ukraine has to just say, oh, well, we have to try to shoot down as many as we can. And whatever ones get through, too bad, so sad, right? And you see all this, all these people saying, oh, we're so sad about Palestine. We're so sad about Palestine. And meanwhile, you see nobody sad and upset about what's happening in Ukraine. Why is that? Why is nobody upset and, upset about the people in Ukraine? It's like, is one life better than the other? Nobody's sad about what Putin is doing. Nobody's sad about all the lives that have been lost on Ukraine's side and Russia's side, about literally hundreds of thousands of people that have been lost on both sides because of literally one person, Putin. It's basically Hitler 2.0, because you think about what Hitler did. You watch all those documentaries on TV, and this is the next version of it. It's what Putin is doing here yet again. And he's just going to keep going until he's forced to stop, which is what happened with World War II. Hitler kept going until the world forced him to stop. So you guys can let me know what you think the solution is. But what was the solution with Hitler until the world forced him to stop? So maybe this is a kind of a solution where Ukraine is actually allowed to attack back on these missile sites and stop the missile barrages coming into Ukraine, because otherwise they're just sitting ducks. They're just getting missiles pounded into them on a daily basis. I mean, imagine if you lived in Ukraine and you just had missiles being shot at you on a daily basis. And you're told, oh, well, you can't shoot back at them. You can't go and shoot where the missiles are, which is insanity, right? So you guys can let me know your thoughts. And then on the other hand, you're going to get Putin say, well, if you do this, it's going to cause World War III. It's going to cause World War III. But what other option do these people actually have? Just keep taking it? So let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I'll keep you up to date with what's going to happen here. If you haven't yet, subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos. Click here to watch my newest video next, a potential $1 trillion stimulus being pumped into the U.S. economy. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.